coughing so hard that I'd slather myself in Vicks Vapor Rub, and I'd take like steamy baths in the middle of the night to try and calm my breathing down, like thinking, oh, I must have some kind of asthma, reactive airway, or just all these justifications why I wasn't feeling well and had these symptoms.
I was given these 2 inhalers and, was basically told that I have asthma. And I said, okay, this was probably coming.
Like, I felt a little something in my chest, but I thought it was a cold or an allergies. And it was just after 2 miles, I just said, I have to stop. As someone that's always been athletic, a cough has never knocked me down before. I always trained through it. I always pushed through it, but this was just different.
Well, it was 2013 actually. I had my son in April of 2013, and I was, being a young mum, run off my feet, working full time. I was experiencing a lot of fatigue, which I thought was completely normal for somebody in my position. And that was really all I can remember experiencing before I noticed about 30 lumps all over my neck. And the way I can explain it is it was like a corn cob. I was sitting in my office one day, and a colleague of mine mentioned that she often feels her neck for lumps, just to be careful, just to be sure, which is a really good advice. So as you do, I felt my lump, felt my neck as well, and I sort of thought, oh, there's lots of lumps on my neck. I wonder what that means. And I wasn't instantly concerned. I was 31, I think, 31 or 32 at the time. I can't remember. It's that long ago. But, you feel a bit invincible at that time. And, but I went along to the doctor anyway and said, look, I've got all these lumps on my neck. And he said, well, we'll just take a blood test and I'll let you know if anything comes about that. And I didn't hear back from him. So I thought, okay, well, it was fine. And about 6 weeks later, I went back to the doctor, the GP. I took my son in. It wasn't even for myself, but I did mention to him, oh, by the way, I still got those lumps on my neck. And the look on his face was a bit, very concerned. Okay, so they shouldn't be there after all this time.
I think, well, first when I realized I was in the mall, and I just put my hand here and I was like, what are these 3 little balls? What are they doing here? And the first thing that I thought, and I never said it out loud, I was like, oh, it's just cancer. But I never said it out loud because I knew that could scare people. So it's like, oh, I don't know what it is. I feel this is weird, but in my mind I was like, is this cancer?
It was so tough in the beginning because it was 1 year into the pandemic, and I was tired, like really tired, having trouble getting past 8 o'clock at night, with kid bedtime and bath time, and then getting back to patient notes after the kids were sleeping. And I just kind of thought every doctor's tired right now, especially doctor parents, and even like just parents, people that aren't doctors, like people that are homeschooling their kids during the pandemic, like we're not teachers, the whole thing was just, it was such a hard time, so many hats to wear. And so I just kind of discounted my fatigue, and that went on for maybe a month or so, maybe 2 months.
I didn't really have any symptoms other than a persistent cough. And then May 2021 was when my symptom, I guess, progressed into something. I started to have a cough and more asthma, allergy-like symptoms, where I definitely was more short of breath. And I did go to the doctor literally the day that I bought my clothes on my house, in between the walkthrough and the signing. I went to the doctor and they said, yes, it's probably asthma. I was given these 2 inhalers and, was basically told that I have asthma. And I said, okay, this was probably coming. And then in June 2021, by that time, my coughing had progressed a lot more where, I really couldn't do anything or even say anything longer than a sentence without coughing nonstop. It was impacting my work where, I speak a lot, I do training for my team, and I couldn't get through a presentation without coughing or even a sentence. So that was becoming a lot more noticeable. That was when finally I decided, to go to urgent care after, not feeling well to the degree that I was at that point that morning. So I was admitted to the hospital on a Monday. They didn't know it was cancer until Friday because there was so much fluid in my lung that, they first thought, okay, this is pneumonia or pleural effusion, and they need to get that out. So once they cleared out the lung, that's when they did another chest x-ray or the CT scan, and they saw the mass in my chest.
The cough was kind of predominantly at nighttime, and there had been some wildfires in the area in California where I live. I had a ton of excuses for that and why I was coughing at night, but like coughing so hard that I'd slather myself in Vicks Vapor Rub, and I'd take like steamy baths in the middle of the night to try and calm my breathing down, like thinking, oh, I must have some kind of asthma, reactive airway, or just all these justifications why I wasn't feeling well and had these symptoms. And then I started getting like a rock hard, rapidly growing lump right above my collarbone. And then I knew. And I even said to my husband when I started to feel it, I said, I think I have lymphoma. I specifically said lymphoma, I don't know. It was just so classic to me in my mind. And shortly after I sort of put it all together, okay, cough, fatigue, and now I have this lump, and this doesn't feel like a benign lymph node. This feels like I have like a rock that's like coming up above my collarbone now into my neck area. And within like a week, there was a difference in the size of it. So it just sort of had all the features of something that a lump that's, can be concerning, but a lot of people don't have rock hard lumps and they have more rubbery lumps. And so, but I just knew I had to get it checked out.
Well, I was training for a marathon. I was looking to Boston qualify, and I was out running. And that's when I found, my breathing was starting to get heavy and I couldn't continue my run. Like, I felt a little something in my chest, but I thought it was a cold or an allergies. And it was just after 2 miles, I just said, I have to stop. I wouldn't say panicking. I thought I was just, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break and come back tomorrow. But in deep in my mind, this is very, very strange for it to make me stop. The next day, I was still feeling, I tried to run and I just didn't have it in me, which is rare. I finally caught a doctor and he said I developed asthma. And then I just said, okay, I have asthma. That went on to the next step. Because my mom had asthma when I was a kid. So I figured, I'm like, okay, it's asthma. Let's get it taken care of. Give me the medicine. I need to get back to my life. So he goes, I'm going to give you asthma medicine. It sounds like it's asthma. So he prescribed me asthma medicine, the spray, and it never did anything. Actually, I think it made it worse. I started getting gradually worse. And then I called him again because I'm going to give you more medicine. And it kept getting worse. And then by this time, he said, okay, I need to come. They're allowing us to see patients now. Can you come in? I'm going to give you an asthma test, an allergy test. He gave me an asthma test. He goes, I don't think you have asthma. And he made me blow through a machine and whatnot. And then he gave me an allergy test. And he goes, I'll have these results to you in a couple days, but I want you to go take an x-ray. So he sent me to the hospital down the street to get an x-ray. Went home and I got a phone call saying, there's something in your chest. It could be cancer. It might not be cancer, but I want to give you a CT. I want you to go take a CT scan.
So I would say, honestly, St. Patrick's Day of last year. I woke up. I felt like I had like a fever. I felt out of it. I didn't feel very good. I felt just blah. But little did I know, like my body was fighting something I didn't know. So I would say that night sweats were ridiculous. Just sweating through my shirt in the middle of the night. Waking up drenched. So the sheets were drenched. Random fevers that would get like top out at like 100.4. Wouldn't get any hotter than that. And then it would just like move on. And then my like anemia started for sure. I would be ridiculously cold, cold for really long periods of time. It was around 55 degrees outside and I was like frozen solid. And when I got home, I had to like sit in front of a space heater. So, and I was still freezing. So I was like, something's just not right. But, I kind of just put it under stress and like I thought I was just anemic. And I recently just bought my girlfriend at the time a wedding ring or engagement ring. So I thought that was just like a lot of stress on me and all that type of stuff. So I just chalked it up as that, as most probably men do, because they're scared to kind of face the reality that something's wrong because they think they're all almighty and stuff like that. Like I did. I thought I would be invincible at 26. I didn't think it was cancer.
I was just really, really nauseous. I kind of started noticing I lost a lot of weight in like April and May. Like I was just kept losing weight. And I was like, great, this is awesome. But obviously not awesome. And I didn't really put two and two together. And I was always tired. I kind of stopped working out a bunch. I used to work out all the time. And I was just too tired to work out, started losing weight and didn't really think anything of it. Just thought I was like, okay, mental health, because we all have a lot of, and then I always had like a chest pain. I'm like, okay, it's just anxiety. We all think, every symptom of Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's could be like your day-to-day. It's bruising day-to-day, night sweating. It's very common if you're hot, you live in California, losing weight, you're being tired. Like it's not like having chest pain, which I thought was just anxiety. And then all of a sudden I was so nauseous, like unbelievably nauseous for about a month. Like it would kind of like creep up to the point that I even like started wearing like seasick bracelets because I was like, there's something going on that I had absolutely no clue. I thought it was a stomach ulcer. I ended up thinking, so I thought it was like a stomach ulcer or like H. pylori, like a bacteria. I had absolutely no clue. Then after that, I was like, I have to, like, something is wrong. Like, why am I I had every symptom of being morning sickness. And I was like, oh my God, am I pregnant? Like, and that's what I thought for like, but I took pregnancy test and it was all negative, but it was just wild because it's like all that doesn't add up to like cancer, which is just insane to me.
So it kind of started probably back when I was kind of ending high school and then kind of the summer after that. I was having a lot of interesting symptoms in terms of like kind of some itching and like my menstrual cycles were not regular. And so I told my mom and she started to kind of look into different doctors that I could go see. And then that kind of progressed into a little bit more intense itching. And then I started to have trouble sleeping. And that was kind of after I had already started college, kind of into my sophomore year. That's when kind of the intense symptoms started to happen. I think like I knew something was wrong because I just didn't feel quite right. But I had started college, and so things had changed from a lifestyle perspective. Maybe I wasn't eating as well, I wasn't exercising as much, or maybe I was stressed out. And so I kind of just thought, well, maybe it's just the new normal. But then I think I would go to the doctor and just feel like it's still not fixed, right? And so I think it was just kind of, my mom really just kept taking me to doctors to try to figure it out because she kind of saw that I was was just not myself during that whole year that we were kind of seeing specialists.
So I felt like I was dumb. Like I felt like during the symptoms, like, okay, duh, something is seriously wrong with you. But it was like I made an excuse, like, oh, it could be this, it can be that. And my first symptoms was itchiness, very bad itchiness, like especially on my legs. Like I would constantly scratch, no matter what I put on there. And I thought, well, maybe it was like dry skin, maybe dermatitis, like some kind of skin problem. And my second symptom, I noticed towards the end of not last year, 2019, I started having like a dry cough. So it wasn't like a cold or anything like that. It was just a dry cough. And after that, I started having like a wheezing sound, which I later found out that was like fluid from my lungs, from the actual tumor. And then after that, I started getting real tired and fatigued and just really weak and dizziness. And what really brought me to the doctor was just a lump finally on my neck.
I think if you know something's wrong with your body and really being in tune, you have to say something. I could have been nauseous for months and months and just not have said something like, oh, it's food poisoning, it's stomach ulcer, and just really like, what in the world is going wrong? And then when you have to like be a self-advocate, you have to get your blood work taken whenever, go to see your doctor. And wouldn't you rather find out, like, I wish Hodgkin's, because I get my blood work taken all the time. I see a wellness doctor, and I wish it would have shown up in my blood work, because I could have had it be stage 1 cancer, and that would have been amazing. And I wouldn't have had to be in the hospital, and I would have been done treatment sooner. But since I didn't have any of these signs and thought it was like anxiety, thought bruising was normal, and night sweating, it ended up being stage 4. If you get this crazy, scary diagnosis, you don't have to have all the answers today, but keep chugging along your train, and eventually the roller coasters and the backflips will stop and everything will be a smooth ride, and you're going to have different bumps in the road. But just listen to your doctors, try and make friends if you can, have a support system, accept people and let people in.